The person that is in the front.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to round 6 of the ANZCAR Truck Series on FGM eCast, brought to you by AJ Insurance Services, Virtual Motorsport Mentor, and Aftershock PC. And we are back, round 6 already. And unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing Luke Trahair make a hat-trick of it tonight, out unfortunately tonight. So, Carl, we're going to have to change our predictions, of course, as usual. Carl Withy with me here to bring the expert side of the commentary to the broadcast. Good evening, Carl.
Good evening, Stuart. And I like being called an expert. It's a nice thing to hear now and again. Yeah, Luke Trahair not here tonight, so it's going to be it's going to get a different winner tonight for sure. This is a very short track, very different track to some of the others we've been running. It's a bit different to that of Bristol and a couple of the other tracks. Can be quite tricky. I imagine people like Skurlock, Purnell, even you're going to have people like Stephen Williams doing quite well on a track like this.
Yeah, so it's, am I right in saying it's a triangular track as such, with the 3 corners? Am I going to get that right?
Yeah, well, it's a triangular track. You've sort of got your normal 4 corners. You turn 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you've got that dog leg at the on the front straight section there. So that little triangle section. There's what we call the dog leg in sort of the oval term. So it's not really classified as a turn. It's just sort of part of that straight. But of course, it does have some turning angle to it. So it's not. You're pretty much going straight along that section. But it does throw you off a little bit because when you're getting onto that section, you've got to turn the car a little bit, as well as when you're braking into that first set of corners. So turns 1 and 2, that first big corner, you're almost turning as you're braking, and that can cause you some trouble sometimes.
Yeah, so I guess time management, as always, critical here. Draft, not so much a factor.
Yeah, very much so. It's going to be a tyre management track here. That front right is going to be screaming out in agony. You'll also find the rear tyres do tend to get a little bit more worn here because of the acceleration and braking. The car tends to get a bit loose under acceleration here, and you'll see a lot of cars just wiggling their bums as they put on the accelerator pedal. You've got to be very careful, very gentle on that accelerator pedal to get it working, of course. So tyre management is going to be the big key here tonight. There is actually, I think, unlimited tyres tonight, so they don't have a tyre limit, what we've seen usually. So we'll probably see people coming in and taking advantage of that a little bit more, as we are likely going to see a couple of cautions here tonight, just because it is such a tricky track and it is so easy to lose that car. It is very loose out there.
And Billy Hickey just jumping into the stream. Welcome, Billy, saying it's going to be quite hectic tonight. Absolutely it is. We were having hopefully a little bit of a joke about how many laps we're going to do under caution tonight. My tip is 40, and Carl, you thought that was a little bit conservative?
Yeah, I'm going with the 60-ish mark, just because of the cup race last week. I'm still very bitter and sore about that one.
I'm hoping that we don't end up that far. It's been a long day already. It feels like a Friday and it's only Monday. So hoping for a pretty clean run tonight myself. And we'll see as Chris Pennell there just cops a big punt in the rear there from the 555 on the stream. I've just had a message from Luke Trahair, in fact, come through as well, just wanting us to give a shout out to his team at Crank Esports. Of course, Chris Pennell was the driver we were just on board with then as well. Currently, Chris sitting 5th in the championship. In fact, just a quick rundown after last week, Luke Trahair making 8 spots up, coming into equal 5th place with Chris, following on the back of that double win. Steve Williams still out in front with Riley Curtis and Christopher Finlay occupying the top 3. And we did speak about it equal as well last week. Ruben Phelps in 3rd position. He certainly has been extremely consistent so far this season, even without a win under his belt. So look out for Ruben tonight.
Yeah, Ruben Phelps been extremely consistent and 3 top 5 finishes as well this season. That is very, very good finishing rate for a rookie, or for anyone in the series as well, but especially for a rookie.
And Ruben currently sitting 12th just in practice as we do get towards the close of this session. If you are in the stream, do give us a hello. Definitely love the engagement from the people that tune in. If you're on YouTube, we're trying to build our following there, so we'd love it if you could give us a follow and turn that notification bell on. But likewise, if you're on Facebook or on Twitch, we welcome all comers. So thank you to those who've tuned in so far. We're looking forward to bringing you what will be a very, very hectic night tonight in terms of cars trying to stay clean. Let's see how many of them survive. We've got a healthy field again here tonight, which is basically now a trademark of these series. 32 cars. Hopefully, however, you were glad as well to see not a full grid of 43, because that could have been a disaster.
Yeah, it makes it very hard on these slightly smaller tracks when you've got the absolute full field, when it's nose to tail running, because it's so easy to well, you have zero room out on the track. It is a relatively short track as well, as only 1.2 kilometers in length. So when you've got all 40 odd cars out there, there is barely any room to breathe. So at least this will give people a little bit of breathing room, give them a chance to get a little bit of a gap between each other. The big thing is going to be the start here for people, just not pushing too hard. Of course, you can win a race at the end of the race. You can't win one at the start of it. You can only lose it. And that's what hopefully people are going to take into their mindset at the start, is just go a bit slower. Don't push too hard. Just get into a rhythm and then start pressing on as we go later into the session.
It's amazing, no matter how many times you tell people that you can't win a race on the first corner, drivers still continue to try. So we'll see if one day that changes. So we're into qualifying here. So what we're going to see, it is solo qualifying. So by that, there will only be one car on the track, but they will all be on the track simultaneously, if you can get your head around that statement. So what we're looking for here as we bring qualifying up onto the screen is for the green sectors. You want green, 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 and then in fact purple will be you as the fastest person on track, as is always the case with us. We jump on board with the car that is leading, so the car that's going to set the first official pace lap, and tonight it is Todd Maxfield.
Yeah, getting a nice little run here, Todd. coming around the corners, just trying to get everything stuck in there and try not to push it too hard. You're probably going to find you're going to get the best lap out the first time around because the tyres do get a little bit warmer here as Hamish Gallagher's jumped to the top already. The second lap can be a little bit trickier. You do lose a little bit of speed on those tyres. It's not to say you can't gain speed, but sometimes that first lap is the best one.
Roy Davison done there with a 22.1. So we'll shift over now and have a look at some of our other runners as Ben Vickers comes across the line. He's finished his first lap with a 22.29. So very, very close running as always, as you would expect for the Truck Series. Number of drivers yet to leave pit lane. Plenty of time left, 3 minutes or so left on the clock for them to get through their 2 laps. And maybe some might choose to start from the back here, given how hectic it could be.
Yeah, starting from the back can be an absolutely good idea on a track like this, just because you can avoid some of the early incidents. One of the other things, of course, is you'll see a few drivers wasting their time because it is a little bit, the track temperature is, it's not super hot, but it's quite warm at 27 degrees. The time is getting later in the day, and the track temperature does drop that little bit. You might even get a good qualifying cloud come over for yourself and get a little bit lucky. So it's all about those little tiny movements in the temperature that can make a big difference.
Chris Purnell, one of those drivers leaving it till later. He is now on his first flying lap. Riley Curtis joins him. Nicholas Walsh, Brodie Masters all jumping out on track. Jackson Callow as well. A first run for him, I think, so far this season. A new name for me anyhow. But he has left it a little bit late as Purnell goes into 6th place with his first lap at 22.12 in round figures. Riley Curtis, 22.07, blasts his way up into 4th position provisionally so far. Chris Purnell gets the job done here. He's not going to improve on that second lap. So far, Carl, absolutely that first lap being the fastest for a number of our drivers.
Yeah, you're going to see that a lot tonight because those tyres do drop off very quickly as it goes on, and you're going to see that in the race as well. A lot of people will be struggling a little bit as the race goes on. Effectively, the longer you stay out there, the more your tyres are going to start dropping off. So the undercut can be quite strong here as well.
So jump on board now with Michael Skurlock, who has left the pits. He was the fastest out of our practice session just prior to qualifying starting. So with just on a minute 20 to go, let's have a look at what he can lay down. Jackson Callow just pops into 10th place there with a 22.23. So a little bit of a gap appearing between our fastest runners and around about that 10th place.
Yeah, Jackson Callow, long-time veteran of the ANZCAR series. We've seen him in Cup and a number of different formulas. Very quick driver, can be extremely quick out there. So one of those drivers to keep an eye out for. And he's going to try for that second lap, but I think he just clipped the wall coming around for that second lap, so it's not going to count for him. And again, that's something you have to watch out for on a track like this because those barriers are so very close to you.
As Steve Williams does a 22 flat and just aborts his second lap there. Michael Skurlock coming across the line with a 21.95 to go second. So second lap fastest for him. And that has put him on the front row, not for the first time so far this season. In fact, I think he has qualified pretty much inside the top 5 every round so far this season. So good, consistent performance for Skurlock there.
Yeah, Skurlock is one of those drivers that's very, very strong. And, he's a good measuring stick. If you can get some good laps, get close to Skurlock, you're doing a good job because he is extremely quick and got a lot of experience underneath his belt as well.
As we go to grid now, Carl, I might let you... Oh, we've got the bit of free sponsorship happening there. We might just leave that up there for the second, but that's okay. It is what it is. That's what happens when you're running late. So I'll get...
No worries, we'll run through the starting order. So on the front row of the grid, we have Hamish Gallagher with Michael Skurlock on the outside. Second row, Justin Howard, Stephen Williams. Third row is Curtis and Dylan. Fourth row, we have Davidson and Phelps. Fifth row is Chris Purnell with Kay Donnelly. Sixth is Todd Maxfield with Jackson Callow. Seventh, we have Finley and Vickers. Eighth row is Clark and Turner. 9th, we have Masters and Schultz. On the 10th row is Bill Hickey and Philip Howe. 11th, we have Hoffman and James. On the 12th row is Walsh and Thomas. Burkick and Allison on the 13th. 14th is Raymond and Koch. 15th, is Wellman and Major. 16th is Jackson and Shaw. And on the back is Mick Taylor in 33rd position.
And that is the full grid for tonight. So a little bit of free sponsorship there for Activity Hub Barley. Michael Shaw running in the field. And, of course, plenty of Activity Hub Barley sponsored vehicles on the grid as well. So good to be able to give them a little bit of free press there as well. So 120 laps tonight here. It's going to feel like 190 laps by the time we're done. And we're going to have plenty to talk about over that period of time. So don't go anywhere. We've got plenty coming up tonight here on the ANZCAR Truck Series broadcast on FGM eCast. Thanks to AJ Insurance Services, Virtual Motorsport Mentor. We've got Aftershock PC and Ferguson Group Media. Once Michael Skurlock just pops into screen there, one of the more difficult things to do is to get a true understanding of just how full the grid is. But this great picture here is able to give you that idea, snaking right back halfway around the corner as well. There's going to be plenty of action to get underway for the lap that will lead us into lap 1 of round 6 here at Richmond.
Yeah, you can really see just how short this track is. You can see the grandstand all the way around it and just how much room these cars take up. You can run them 3 wide here, of course. It is very tricky. Wouldn't recommend it. Would recommend the 2 wide. Of course, we have seen the changes as well to the running conditions on the ovals, so there should be a double line working out eventually for these guys, but it's going to be interesting to see how this race unfolds.
Yeah, to touch base on that a little bit later on to update the viewers about what you mean there with the double line. So some updates to iRacing that have come out over the last week. As we're about to send the pace car off and we will get ourselves underway here. A little bit tricky on the cameras here, so we'll try and do our best with it being such a short track to keep up with the movements, to try and bring you the best coverage that we can. Good to see the crowd being COVID safe as well. As the truck will peel off and we'll get this one underway. A little bit of a gap in the field there. They want to close that up before things get started. I know that was a focus as well as we do get underway. We're looking at the back of Michael Skurlock's 350 Crank Esports car for this start, as it looks like it has been a clean one. Gallagher, Skurlock, Howe, Williams, Curtis, Dillon, Purnell, Davison, Phelps and Maxfield make up your top 10 as we do come around that first corner. It looks like so far everyone has got through clean. The 78 of Justin Howe is right all over the back of Michael Skurlock in this early part of the race.
Yeah, everybody getting away quite well there. Hamish Gallagher getting a great jump on the lead as they started there, so that's what we like to see. A few cars battling away a bit further down the field at the moment, but everybody behaving themselves luckily, so that's good. That's what we want to see. But Hamish Gallagher's managed to lock up that front position at the moment and get Skurlock in behind him. Justin Howe's now starting to apply the screws onto Skurlock himself, try and get some pressure on him because he doesn't want to see Hamish Gallagher starting to run away from it.
Very important to make sure that you get underway cleanly here. Keep the truck as clean as possible. We've noticed, it's almost without saying that over the last few weeks, those with the cleanest trucks towards the end of the race generally tend to manage to make way up to the front of the field. So manage the race early on and really set yourself up for the latter part of the race. Really pays dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a huge difference to have a clean car towards the end of the race. When you start getting damage on these vehicles, it doesn't affect the aero too much. It doesn't affect that aspect, but it does affect the handling, and it can scrub your tyres more, and that's the thing that really hurts you. Of course, if you get any engine damage and things like that, that makes you suffer. But the main thing is you want to have a car that's going to be running their tyres cleanly, and when you get damage to the front end of the car, they no longer do that.
We'll just look here and see the field spread out into a nice long single file chain at the moment. Not too many challenges going on. There is a little bit of a battle there. We'll try and pick that one out from the group. And now we have it down onto the inside there. Christopher Finlay and Jackson Callow have come to terms with one another, and they have ended up down on the infield. It'll be a visit down to the emergency centre for them, and it is Jackson Callow. He's jumped out into pit lane. I'm just zooming in on them as that incident occurred. You could see them battling away as we were looking from the blimp. So we'll go back now and have a look at that replay.
Yeah, so just having a look at it, it looks like maybe Callow went a little bit wide.
He did, yeah, and you're spot on. Just bounced off the wall.
Yeah, unfortunately, and yeah, very unlucky there. Just up into the wall a bit early on. Looks like he was carrying a bit of damage anyway on that right front, so looks like he may have got a bit of a scrape into the wall beforehand, and then it's bounced up into the wall into Cade Donnelly, and that is that, unfortunately.
This camera's very, very tricky here. There's not a lot that you can do in terms of camera 1 and 2. It's miles off in the distance, basically looking at ants running around on a big field. So we'll just jump straight out of that one. We'll get things back to live, and we've got our first caution. Only 8 laps into this one. In fact, it was on lap 6. So here we are.
Early caution.
Early caution.
You might see a couple of people possibly rolling a dice here coming down pit lane, possibly towards the back end of the pack. The front runners are going to stay out at the moment. There's no point in losing track position. Those guys are going to want to keep track position as much as possible. I think the only people that are popped in at the moment are guys getting some repairs done. I saw Michael Shaw was in the pit lane. Of course, Cade Donnelly and Jackson Callow.
Yeah, probably a little bit too early, as you say, for any real advantage to be gained. There's definitely, unfortunately, going to be other caution periods over this evening. So it's too early to gain much of an advantage from that.
You won't gain a huge amount of advantage, but there will be a little bit. We saw how much time that they were struggling a little bit on that second run in qualifying. Michael Shaw being the first of the guys to really take an advantage of that sort of kind of free pit stop. He was a little bit further down the field with that caution, so he might work his way up the field. It'd be interesting to see how he does on those fresher tyres. Of course, there's no tyre limit tonight, so you can jump into the pit lane, get those fresh tyres on, and it's not going to affect you too much. Normally we see a 4 tyre limit, so with no tyre limit tonight, it depends how many people have noticed that to who's going to take advantage of it.
I can tell you the faster guys will take note of that. So far, biggest mover in the field is actually Aidan Schultz, who's up 8 spots into the top 10 as it sits at the moment. The lights are out on the pace truck. So he has made a good start tonight as the pace truck pulls off. It's going to be Gallagher and Skurlock who will resume at the front. The battle, Skurlock be hoping to get a good restart here. But it is Hamish Gallagher who's just ripped away. And in fact, Justin Howe with a good start as well moves up into second place. Steve Williams there on the outside as well, trying to make haste while he can. Aaron Dillon, Chris Purnell, Curtis Davison, Maxfield and Schultz, your top 10 on the restart here.
Yeah, another great restart. Hamish Gallagher is usually very quick off the line. He's one of those drivers that can absolutely go flying when he needs to. So yeah, he's definitely one of those drivers to keep an eye on, especially at the restarts. He can be very hard to catch napping. As you can see, Justin Howe now right on the outside of Skurlock, trying his best to force his way round Skurlock there. He's on the outside, going to run the high line, run the wall of death as it is, and he's going to slot in front of Skurlock, and take that second position. So nice move there from Justin Howe. Like Skurlock's just going to drop back a little bit now.
He's clipped the wall there as well, has Howe done. So that's going to expose him potentially.
He'll lose a little bit of speed back onto the straights there. He shouldn't be too much damage there, but it's not what you want to have happen to the car.
Skurlock here with a big dive, just closing the gap up. as you say, probably not too much damage there, but more about just the loss of momentum and the potential for exposure to the driver behind you.
And you should just about see in the background there Stephen Williams and, Aaron Dillon and Chris Purnell just having a good little battle as well. Chris Purnell, of course, Skurlock's teammate there. Aaron Dillon just a little bit further back, and they were having a good little scrap, but Aaron Dillon managed to position his car, just cost Skurlock cost Purnell a little bit of speed, and is holding on quite well there.
Running quite a different line as well. Dillon very, very high up in comparison to Purnell, choosing to pull right down to that line, the brake line between the apron and the track. So right there you can just see, we're just looking out the back of Steve Williams' car, just the different line that Dillon's taking in comparison to everyone else. So maybe finding a little bit of extra pace there. His lap pace so far slightly slower, so I'm not too sure. We'll keep an eye on that.
One thing to look at, actually, is a little bit further down the field with Ruben Phelps. He's one of the guys that came in that pit stop, and there are quite a few little ding-dongs going down at the back there. But Ruben Phelps is starting to charge his way up the field. He's currently in 20th position, but he's carving his way through the field there, and there's a heck of a battle. I think Kai Donnelly's just gone round. Yeah,
there was indeed, you're correct. Just behind us there, we saw it. A bit of a accident a little bit further back, I think it... Yeah, we just didn't quite miss it there. It was Cade Donnelly. In fact, we'll just bring that one back again and have another look at that on replay.
Looks like Bradley Allison just got underneath the back of Donnelly there and just gave him a little bit of a tap to say, I'm here. No love lost between those two, I think, and just spun Donnelly around.
No harm too much. Everyone else getting through cleanly, including the 49 of Igor Berkic, who did well just to avoid the slower car on track. So it will be another caution period. Nothing too much of note. Just see if we've got any stops as a consequence of that.
Well, Skurlock was trying to throw the dummy down the pit lane, and a few people thought about doing it, but they all jumped out of it when they got there. Just looking at the pit stops, it looks like Ruben Phelps is coming in again. So he made some really good positions in that charge with those fresher tyres. So he's coming in again with Kai Turner, Bradley Allison, Igor Berkic. So those guys are coming in, just getting some fresh tyres on the car, getting a few little repairs done here and there. But they should be relatively quick again once they come back out on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a bad strategy play while you're down the back. Keep getting fresh tyres. Guys at the front already 20 laps in on the tyres they have on their truck, so he's going to benefit from that. And it just opens up your options a little bit more as this race develops.
Well, that's exactly it, Stuart. It's opening up your options and giving yourselves a little bit more of an opportunity later in the race. Whereas these guys will start struggling with the tyre grip and it will just sort of drop off a cliff for them, and they'll obviously have to make a pit stop. It could be the difference between making a stop under caution or making it under green. If you can get the car lasting an extra 5-10 laps, you might be able to make that pit stop under caution, whereas the rest of the field make it under green, and you can gain an awful lot of positions that way. The downside, of course, is you have to fight your way through the field, and we've seen that can be a bit hazardous tonight.
I have seen actually some really good use of pit strategy for drivers to progress their way up through the field, and it playing right into some really solid race results. And that tonight I think will probably play its way out. In fact, Ruben was one of those drivers who has just managed to sneak his way up through the field using that strategy, so it looks like he's trying that on again tonight.
Yeah, it's I've said a few times, it's playing chess at a couple of 100 kilometers per hour. You really have to think about those strategies, and sometimes you just sort of go for one that can seem quite logical and it makes no sense to anyone else, but it ends up paying off. Other times you can get caught out by it and you end up looking quite silly from it. But it's all about playing the game and seeing what works out best for you. Sometimes you might go a little bit extra longer than anybody else and it pays off. It's always a bit of a gamble, but when the gambles work, they can really, really give you some good results.
We're just riding on board here with Carl Hoffman's up 10 spots so far into position number 11. So now our highest move. We do have Aaron Majors on 13 positions, in fact, as well. So we'll jump on board with him for a little bit.
A few drivers working their way up that field, and you'll see a few people getting up there a bit further and a bit further. At the moment, Ruben Phelps has dropped down 16 positions. He's on the lead lap still, so the biggest loser, you could say, on the lead lap, but he has pitted for those fresh tyres, and I think he's one of the first drivers in that group on those fresh tyres, himself and Bradley Allison. As the pace car will be coming in this time around, and we'll be going back to green flag racing here at Richmond Raceway. Will Hamish Gallagher get that great launch again? Justin Howe on the outside. He's waiting for it, and great job from Hamish Gallagher there. He managed to catch Justin Howe just a little bit napping.
Yeah, absolutely, and has created a good gap. Looks like Michael Skurlock and Stephen Williams equally battling away in third and fourth there. Williams getting a good jump. Skurlock not too bad. Chris Purnell's moved up behind him into fifth. Aaron Dillon as well in this battle. Right behind him, you've got Riley Curtis, I think in a Mark 1 Esports car, if I am not mistaken. I may be mistaken, so I'll have a look at that in a moment.
Right car.
Troy Davison, I'm getting there, and we've got another caution.
Oh, we've got a big caution in the mid-pack there.
Looks like Nathan Walsh, Ruben Phelps, unfortunately involved in that, and Michael Shaw as well. So let's go back and have a look at that one.
So it looks like Nicholas Walsh has got a bit of a helping round by Philip Howe.
Yeah, he has indeed there. He's just got right into the back, the left-hand rear corner. And that's turned him around. And Ruben Phelps just on his way through with not really too many places to go. He's just tried to slow up and just cop some damage to the left rear as well. Actually, doesn't look too bad for Phelps, albeit he would prefer not to have had any damage whatsoever, but he's avoided anything too significant by the look of that.
Yeah, got very, very lucky. It sort of was one of those moments where it could have been a lot worse than it could have been, and it's when those happen, you've got to be really careful, because it's you're a passenger when you're behind those incidents. There's not much you can do to avoid them.
A little bit of management there from Ruben Phelps probably restricted the impact of that. He's already on his way down into pit lane, so he will not go down a lap. He should get that repaired and get back out on track to resume his attempts to make his way up through the field.
This was good news for Cade Donnelly, however, because he's managed to get back onto the lead lap now, I believe. So he's going to use that lucky dog to get back on the lead lap now, and that's going to get him a little bit further up and back in the pack as well, as none of the leaders come in. Everybody else has avoided the pit lane as well, just the usual takers. So still a lot of people out there on some slightly old rubber. They're going to be sticking it out as long as they can, I think, tonight. Just try and get a good long stint. But as soon as anyone from the front pack does pit, you'll see a massive wave of drivers following them in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we spoke about the early running so far, we had 10 laps of clean racing, and since then it's been a very stop-start indeed. And
it is unfortunately the case sometimes on these short track ovals, because it's such a different style of racing. There's not much room on a track like this. You can run too wide, but it is not an easy thing to do. You have to be a bit careful of the drivers on your inside. You really need sort of fresher tyres to make it work properly. The big issue on a track like this is you've got to give room to the drivers you're racing as well. You've got to be aware of where they're going to be sitting, especially on the exit of the corners, because when you're exiting the corners, especially on these slightly older tyres, your car's going to run up the track. So you've got to be aware of that when you're making the overtake, that you're going to need a bit more room on the exit to sort of manage to get the car through. And you've also got to be aware the car behind you to sort of just know that they might need a little bit more of a gap to make it work. So it's a very tricky skill set to get working, and it's all part of the management of driving these cars on this style of track.
Absolutely. So looking for the lights to go out on the pace truck. I believe they have done that, so we will go racing again next time around. And once again, Gallagher, how many times in a row can he's got these restarts mastered, in fact. So he'll be looking to hopefully get some consistent laps under his belt and build that lead back out again.
For sure, and one thing Hal's got to do is just not push too hard. He was just trying to guess when Hamish Gallagher was going to jump. You could see he was a bit too eager last time round, so he just has to relax this time round.
We're waiting for it to get underway. It will be Gallagher who goes, and Howe this time goes with him a little bit better, and in fact Skirlock gets a good restart as well, so plenty of restart practice here helping. Williams has gone with him. Dylan has managed to get the jump on Purnell as he's moved up into 5th position. We've got Curtis, Davison, Schultz and Todd Maxfield making up your top 10 as we get through our 3rd restart of the evening. There's some good side-by-side running going on a little bit further back in the field as well. We'll try and keep an eye on that as best we can. You just see it here in the background. I've got Carl Hoffman and the 16 I should say, sorry, of Todd Maxfield running side-by-side on the restart, and Billy Hickey right behind them as well.
Yeah, we've got some close racing now, and this is where you want to get the car sort of back up to temperature as quick as possible. When you've been in a caution period like that, the tyre temperature does drop a little bit, the pressures go down a little bit, so you just got to get the car back to feeling correct. But at the moment they're doing a great job. It's good to see that side-by-side racing. As I said before, you can run too wide here, you just have to work almost together, just respect each other that little bit to get it working exactly as you want it to.
Looking back down through the field here, Cam James, Gary Wellman as well. There's a spin down in the back there. Just say it is Donnelly, and we can't even zoom in on it.
Looks like we may have got away with that.
Avoided a caution period. There's not really too much damage there on Donnelly's car, which is good. So we are going to continue under green flag racing.
We are. Kate Donnelly just getting a little bit pinched there, I think, by Philip Howe, just from my quick initial little look at that one. So getting a bit unlucky in that spot there, but these are some of the things of racing. Sometimes the luck goes your way, other times it does not.
Kate Donnelly does go into pit lane to get that damage repaired.
He might be just coming in for a drive-through, just because he might be hitting his instant points just because he's had a few taps tonight. He's going to come out in front of the leaders there, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully those fresher tyres will just pay off for him. You'll be able to pull away from that lead pack a little bit so they don't get into traffic too quickly. You do get a drive-through after 12 instant points, of course, in the ANZCAR series, and 17 points you get disqualification. So just with the few instances he's had tonight, I think he probably just had a drive-through with that one.
We're on the nose here of Gary Wellman. So he's battling away with Tristan Koch, Ruben Phelps, Brad Allison and Braden Thomas. Phelps already back up to 19th after that incident. Just saw him travel through pit lane again during our 3rd caution period. So already making his way back up here, as it is Braden Thomas who gets quite wide there, manages to pull out of it. And that has benefited Gary Wellman and Ruben Phelps there, just avoiding contact, which no doubt would have turned him around, so he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, very lucky to avoid a bigger incident there, so good when it pays off like that. As I say, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because yeah, you can get called out very easily there. But they are racing side by side at the moment. Braden Thomas on that outside line. He just gets caught a little bit by Tristan Koch there a little bit. So bit of a bang between those two, but no major damage between them. They both managed to keep the cars going. Koch managed to jump up there, up into 20th position. They're now going to try and chase down Gary Wellman.
Oh, wow. So Thomas really struggling out there at the moment, actually.
He is.
And tap there as well. It looks like he's clipped
Philip Howe there.
Philip Howe, I think. But just managed to keep it straight, as we do have a caution period again. Not because of that. I haven't seen the cause of that one. Just trying to identify there the cause of that caution period. Not really seeing anyone, in fact.
I'm just wondering if it's possibly because of one of those cars going sideways. It's just thrown the flag.
I think you may well be right, because we were on board when that happened with Braden Thomas and Philip Howe, but of course that wasn't the reason for it. There was no real damage there. So we've got now an absolute procession heading into pit lane. You can see there everyone from Hamish Gallagher down to Ruben Phelps again in pit lane. He'll be loving this no tyre limit tonight. Gary Wellman the only one so far, and Nicholas Walsh staying out on track. So Gary Wellman here is going to make up a whopping 28 positions and head to the front of the field along with Nicholas Walsh, Michael Shaw as well, deciding not to run through pit lane. So at this stage though, not a bad gamble. Walsh and Shaw did pit on lap 26. So with these additional caution periods, now this is our fifth caution period of the night, I believe. They will probably benefit from that. And as I conclude saying that, because it took far too long, Walsh and Shaw have gone into pit lane. So you can basically dismiss everything that I just said.
Gary Wellman has stayed out there, so it'll be interesting to see what he plans to do here. This could be an interesting one on the restart, just because, of course, when you do restart on these cars, when their tyres are a little bit worn, he's done 25 laps on those tyres now. It can be a bit tricky to get away. So you'll probably see he gets an okay-ish first part of his restart. So he'll pull away quite well at the initial part, but then everybody will catch him coming into turn number one, because they'll have the grip factor to them. So it can get a little bit messy sometimes when you start getting cars up there that are on those older tyres. So this restart will be pretty critical for everybody. But Hamish Gallagher is probably going to be the one that's going to be looking, going to be in the best position, in all honesty. You have to wait for the leader to put his foot down and drive away under green. So you can't jump the leader before the start line. But with that fresher tyre set, he'll be able to go up and around the outside of Gary Wellman, and it might block off Michael Scurlock, just blocking off that inside line.
So let's see how he manages to handle this restart.
And it can be a bit tricky as well. Wellman, one of the newer drivers to the series as well. So again, it's one of those things of a little bit less experience up the front can sometimes make it a little bit more daunting. Just quickly as well, I'll go over those changes that have come in for iRacing as of the last update. So there's been a slight change to the oval track races and the grip levels on the tracks to hopefully allow for 2 wide running. So just allow for that extra lane to come in. So far, things have been looking okay for that, and it's been working relatively well. So what it means is there's just a little bit more grip on the second line of the track. So most tracks have a racing line. On ovals, you usually have 2 racing lines. So you should find that you'll be able to run both lines on most tracks now and be able to keep up some relatively okay speed. That's about the only change for the truck side of things anyway.
Yeah, of course, with some changes coming to the Cup cars as well, with some updates there as the pace truck pulls in. We are at the control of Gary Wellman. Hamish Gallagher there. Wellman gets away quite well, actually. At the front there, Gallagher, Scurlock, Howe, Dylan Williams, Purnell, Curtis, Schultz and Davison are your top 10 on the restart. And in fact, Michael Scurlock's got underneath Hamish Gallagher as well. So Stephen Williams and Chris Purnell there.
There's a big crash
having
behind
a
him.
big accident indeed. Phelps, Purnell, Dillon, Vickers, Brad Allison, James, Clark, Cock, Maxfield, Shaw and Philip Howe involved in that. That is a huge incident.
It is. It just looks like Aaron Dillon has lost the car mid-corner into turn number 2. So it looks like the back end has stepped out. He's put his foot down a little bit too much and then gone down into Chris Purnell. And then a big crash behind him. A lot of the cars involved in that. Not much you can do there. Not many places you can run. When the track is filled up with cars, you can't really avoid them. You can only put on the brakes.
Yeah, as we're just seeing here from the static camera angle, getting a pretty good view of what the drivers would have seen coming up to that. And it is a cloud of smoke.
That's actually something else that has changed as well in this recent update. The smoke is now more smoky. It is very hard to see through those smoke clouds now. You used to be able to see through them relatively well. Now it's almost like as just a white shade in front of you, and you can barely see a thing. And it has caught a few drivers out. It caught a few drivers out in the Cup Series on Thursday. But it can definitely make things harder to avoid incidents when there's a lot of smoke in the air.
So we did have cars up into the catch fence as well, on roofs and flipping and doing all sorts of carousels. So that's going to make great for the highlights package, but certainly not great for the drivers involved in these incidents. Lots and lots of damage, and that will open things up for those who manage to avoid it. But you can see there, just going past on the screen, just how damaged some of these cars are. In fact, some of them not even getting going again. I believe they've jumped straight to pit lane. In fact, Brad Allison, the only one to do that so far.
Yeah, a lot of those drivers just sort of, I think that was almost half a field there, just getting caught up in that incident, unfortunately. A lot of damage to a lot of cars there, and a lot of cars that we would be expecting to see doing quite well later in this race as well. So that's taken out quite a few different names, quite a few names that have been doing well in the series, and quite a few of the regulars as well in that sort of top 10, top 20 area of the grid.
So those who didn't get caught up in it, Skurlock Gallagher, Hal Williams, and Riley Curtis, Aidan Schultz, Benefactor, Troy Davison, Cole Hoffman, Billy Hickey and Aaron Major, all up into the top 10. So a drastically altered top 10 against where we were at the last restart. And I tell you, lap 52, this is now restart or caution period number 6 of the evening.
Yeah, number 6 of the evening on lap 52 we're on. So we're not even halfway yet. Unfortunately, a few cautions tonight, but hopefully, usually what will happen is as the field starts to thin out a little bit, unfortunately, from those incidents, things get a little bit less hectic out there, and we should see a few less cautions happening. That's usually the way it goes. Cars from 23rd down are all a lap down now, so we only got 22 cars on the lead lap.
Just looking there, there's the Purnell, Ruben Phelps and Paul Jackson getting out, and they are down a lap. So Ruben Phelps is the now leader of those on a lap down, and then everyone in front. In fact, no, he will catch up. So will Chris Purnell, Paul Jackson, Cam James. So Aaron Dillon, first of those drivers, a lap down. So even though they were involved in that incident, they are going to rejoin at the back of this pack on the lead lap as we're about to go green again. And Michael Skurlock wastes no time at all in getting away. Hamish Gallagher, Justin House, Stephen Williams going in at the pack behind him.
Good restart there from Skurlock. Very quick on the accelerator. Caught a few people napping, which has sort of meant that Stephen Williams has got a good run on them as well. So he's going to try and get a little bit of advantage going. A little bit further back, you've got Aidan Schultz dropping back a little bit from that restart with Carl Hoffman and Billy Hickey up there as well. And then you sort of fall back to the secondary pack at the moment from P10 onwards.
A big gap back to them already. So they're just trying to form and get into a rhythm again. The bit of an interruption Couple of interruptions, in fact, there. Oh, wow, there's almost crossed the yellow line there. Down on the infield. Didn't quite catch who that driver was. Almost made his way up onto the race line.
I think it was Philip Howe just trying to keep out of the leader's way as they were coming around to lap him there, just dropping right out of the way. A few cars are extremely damaged, and just seeing how they can go on the pace of things, really. But that's where you can get really dangerous out there, as a few people will try and keep the cars going for as long as possible and try and get some actual trying to get a result out of tonight. But of course, when the car's that damaged, sometimes it's better just to park it and give it up for the night.
Absolutely.
As Skurlock is in the lead over Hamish Gallagher, with Justin Howe behind him, Stephen Williams in 4th, and Riley Curtis up there in P5 at the moment. And then a big gap from P9 to P10 at the moment, around about 2.5 seconds between those cars.
They're just starting to settle here. Lap 59 of 120. If you've just joined us, we are 5 cautions deep so far this evening. And the front runners just getting taken out in a big incident after our last restart. But it is Michael Skurlock, Hamish Gallagher, Justin Howe, your top 3. Stephen Williams just behind them with Riley Curtis, Troy Davison, Aidan Schultz, Billy Hickey, Carl Hoffmans and Tristan Koch as your top 10 as we go on to lap 60 here at Richmond.
Yeah, it's starting to ease off a little bit now, as those as a few of the cars, they're just not pushing quite as hard. Quite a few people are just driving around problems now, and that sort of slows the pace down a lot for some of the drivers there. Unfortunately, not what you want to be doing in the evening. It's never fun driving a damaged car around the track, but if you can make it up there and still make some good points, then it can be worth it in the end.
So as you mentioned early on, a unlimited supply of tyres tonight, so even those drivers involved in that incident, with the likelihood of another caution or 2 for the night, is out. Can't write anyone off from making their way back up to the front of the pack, particularly with the likelihood of another 1 or 2 caution periods to come.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see another caution tonight, as I think Hamish Gallagher there just gets into the wall ever so slightly. Just a little kiss of the wall there, a few little sparks for the night time, a little bit of fireworks. No major damage done though. May have just scraped off a little bit of his Taylor Swift livery. But the likelihood of another caution is pretty strong, especially as there are some cars out there with very different paces. It makes it very tricky when you come up on a car that is good 10 to 15 kilometers per hour slower than you. Those closing speeds can get very, very dicey. It's a bit like multi-class racing at Le Mans sometimes when you're coming up to those coming up to a GT car and a prototype car. It's a very, very quick closing speed down the straights, and you sort of go, ooh, that was close. That's what can happen in these circumstances.
So Skurlock here just making his way under some of that lap traffic. Of course, as we say every week, there's no obligation for that traffic to make way. But with a variety of pace on show now, just do the right thing and hop out the way.
Yeah, it's all about sort of keeping your race with a relatively okay pace and just not getting in the way of others for those drivers driving around the problems, as the caution flag does fly once more.
And it is Mick Taylor this time who is involved in an incident. So let's have a look at this one.
So it looks
like he's
Taylor
got up into a big slide there and ended up back into the wall. Single car incident though. This will close the field back up again.
And he did a good job of just holding on to the brakes up there as well. One of the big things we say in oval racing, of course, is hold your brakes, hold your brakes, hold your brakes, because it's easier to avoid a car than it is to just try and guesstimate where they're going to go. So he's probably going to lose a fair few positions and possibly a lap as he tries to get out the way of the leaders, but a good job just holding his brake up there to avoid any major incidents.
There have to be too many jump in.
Hamish
Gallagher's
coming.
Yeah, very surprising. Gallagher's in. Raymond, Phelps, Jackson, Finlay, Purnell, Shaw, all in as well. Potentially a little bit more repair work being done on those cars while they can take the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, you'll see the people that have damage coming in for those repairs. You'll see a lot of people coming in and then leaving the pit lane and then coming back in again just to keep on the lead lap or keep from going one more lap down as well. Common sort of practice in oval racing, because you can generally get quite a lot done under the cautions. Being such a short track, though, it is easy to lose a lap. So you might see a couple of people just waiting there.
Definitely got to pay attention so you don't end up losing a lap.
Very easy to have done on a track like this, and it's not what you want to have happen. It really can affect your race, and especially if you're leading.
See them all there. Sorry, I was just going to say you can see them all there jumping out of pit lane just as we speak with the pace truck coming around.
That's it. They'll all be watching their relative times like a hawk, just seeing where the pace car is and knowing when exactly to jump out. There's nothing worse than getting caught just with the pit exit closing on you and losing that lap.
On to lap 70, caution period 6.
That's it. We've got 50 laps, well, just under 50 laps remaining now of this race. So we're coming towards the latter stages. So I imagine these the majority of these leaders now, the majority of the guys that stayed out there are not going to come in again for a stop unless we get a caution a bit later on. They're just going to try and stick it out there as long as they can. They've done about 28 laps on these tyres, 27, 28 laps on these tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see how guys can actually get back up there, because those guys that did stop have got quite a few cars between themselves and the leader. I think the first of the cars is in 15th, and that would be Hamish Gallagher. So he's got 14 odd positions to gain before he can get back to the front of the field, and he's got to do that by passing a lot of cars.
Of course, in itself, in a track like this, is a high risk but potentially high reward manoeuvre for him to do. Looking again there, Phelps, Purnell, Finlay back in the pit lane, just getting more of those repairs done as they're on their way back out again.
I imagine they're just trying to get if they've got damage to the cooling systems, try and get those fixed as soon as possible. Just that little bit of suspension damage fixed as well. It just, all of it helps out a little bit. Worst thing is when you get the damage to the cooling and you just got to lift the car off. You can't use that full power of the vehicle. It can be a miserable drive around these tracks when you're just having to lift off halfway around the circuit. But you do what you've got to do to get to the finish of this race, because points are always important.
So Justin Howe up into second position, and he will join us as the truck goes in, and it will be Skurlock who will resume things here, and he's gone early and he is off and running. This Steve Williams on the inside of Justin Howe, and Aidan Schultz, Billy Hickey there just sliding down the list somewhat, and it is because there is another incident. Straight away we've got Eagle Burkick and Mick Taylor involved in another incident that has brought the yellow flag out, but 3 corners from the conclusion of the last one.
Or bit of a unsighted move by Eagle Burkick there. He's just gone down on Ruben Phelps, I believe it is, and just driven down into Phelps, and that's caused a big crash between those guys. So that's a big incident down there towards the back of the grid, and yeah, that's gonna be the end for a couple of those cars, I think, tonight. Some heavy damage to the front of Burkick's car.
You can see that there just up on the line, and poor Mick Taylor has been involved again, so his night is all but over. There's once again we're going to see this rotation through pit lane of a couple of those other cars. Purnell back in, Finlay back in, Brodie Masters back in pit lane. So they're well and truly taking advantage of this, and this may play them back into top 10 or so finish if they can get it right. Skurlock will be a little bit frustrated not to be able to get running.
What it's going to do for Skurlock is just give him a little bit more leeway and a little bit more of a respite as well from those guys that came in for those fresh tyres. He's, as much as he's going to want to have green flag running, this is just going to give him a little bit of a little bit more running on, sorry, a little bit less running on those older tyres. So this could actually help him out a little bit. He did get a fantastic restart last time, and you'll see if Justin Howe took that into its mind, because with Skurlock, he seems to be starting pretty much on the drop of the green every time. So we'll see how that one works out this time, because if Justin Howe's been paying attention, he will make sure to drop the hammer as soon as Skurlock does.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it does help him potentially manage his race a little bit easier with these caution periods.
And a big mention to Aidan Schultz up there in 5th position. He's managed to gain 13 positions tonight. Bill Hickey's gained 12 positions. Carl Hoffman 13 positions. Gary Wellman up 20 positions. And Tristan Koch up 17 positions, up there in 11th place. So some big movers out there tonight. It's nice to see the two Mach 1 eSport cars together as well, with Riley Curtis and Aidan Schultz up there in 4th and 5th.
Absolutely, of course, a new addition to the field with that change there for Schultz. And,
a bit of a merger between the teams there, and new team in the ANZCAR series. Always nice to see some slightly new paint schemes and new names coming in. What we like to see, a little bit of growth and a little bit of fresh blood coming through.
And a really, really strong turnout again tonight for the truck series. So it continues to be very well supported. Of course, those of you joining the stream for the first time, this is the development series for the ANZCAR Cup series that is run as well. So see a lot of these drivers doing double duty, some of them using this potentially to get experience to move up into the Cup. And we also do have the ARCA series, which is the entry-level series for ANZCAR. So catering for all driving capabilities, but well and truly the leading oval track racing series in Australia. So if you're interested in getting involved, there's plenty of good advice getting around as well. And this is the place for you to come and have a go. As we get back underway, green flag running again. Michael Skurlock again getting a good restart, but Justin Howe did learn from the last one. He's right behind him, Steve Williams, Riley Curtis in there as well. So much more closed restart here this time around.
Yeah, that's it. You sort of it can be tricky to pull the same trick again and again, and Skurlock was trying his best to get that working. It's worked out kind of okay for him here. He's managed to build up a little bit of a lead over Justin Howe. But when you pull the same move over and over again on those restarts, everybody else starts to figure it into you. Of course, it can be a good art as well. If we get another restart, I imagine you'll see Skurlock waiting a little bit to go back on the accelerator. A little bit further down, you've got Hamish Gallagher just carving his way through the field now. He's up into 9th position now. So Hamish Gallagher just starting to absolutely fly up the field. And this is what Michael Skurlock is going to be keeping an eye on.
He's got a lot of pace against the cars around him too, so he's just going to have to work through this carefully to make sure that it doesn't undo itself for him, and he'll make his way back up to the front of the field.
And he's going to have such a grip advantage down on the corners. He's going to be able to go much lower than anybody else and be able to keep that car relatively sturdy. The thing he's got to watch out for, though, is people defending and sort of blocking him off. So he's just got to be sort of almost, you've got to use a little bit of patience. But it's easier said than done.
It's Hoffman's.
He goes into Hoffman.
Indeed, we were just on there with that one. And Gallagher lucky just to be in front of that when Hoffman got turned around by Billy Hickey. And we do have another caution period for this evening, 7th, but Billy Hickey there very much in the gun.
It just looks like he's just left the braking a little bit late there, Billy Hickey, and just gone up into Carl. And unfortunate move there. One of those things that, again, can easily happen when you're on those older tyres. Just coming into pit lane now is Stephen Williams. So Stephen Williams coming into the pit lane, as well as Gary Wellman. So and then behind them a whole heap of cars. But the top group is Gary Wellman and Stephen Williams. So those guys are going to come in for tyres. Everybody else is staying out. And you've got to say that feels like a bit of a mistake on the leaders sort of group, because you just saw how much faster Hamish Gallagher was on those tyres. It's not going to be long before he catches up and passes that lead group, I'd imagine.
Indeed. I do have a couple. Who was the lucky dog there? I think. Just trying to catch who that was there, but they went flying past the camera, so no doing. And Hamish Gallagher now up into 6th place, so he is well and truly on the charge. Going to be one to keep an eye out for as we get towards the end of this race. Much, much fresher rubber than those in front of him. Some 25 laps.
So I'd say the lucky dog was Brodie Masters that time round, getting back onto the lead lap for himself, I believe. So that's going to get him back up there and into some form of contention. I'm not sure if he was a single lap down or 2 laps down. We're just trying to work that out. But yeah, it seems like he had the pass on everybody. But yeah, the field is starting to shrink a little bit now. We still have 20 cars on that lead lap. So that is some good news there. But a lot of those cars are carrying a fair amount of... well, a couple of them are looking more than second-hand. You would not get them... You'd not get much money from dealers for trading them in.
No, yes, as you say, plenty of second-hand trucks available. If you're looking for one with low mileage on it, then there's going to be a few available.
Low mileage, a couple of scratches. They can be done. They can be buffered out. That's fine.
Fresh over from WA, never used in the mines, we swear.
Absolutely. As you were saying before with the ARCA series, of course, that's the developmental development series. So that's the starting ground if you're looking at getting into oval racing run on the Tuesday night. Brilliant place to learn the craft and learn the intricacy of sort of the short track ovals and the ovals in general. Really good way to learn, and then moving your way up to the trucks, of course, and then finally up to the Cup series. It's a very good path to follow if you are looking to come into oval racing, get the experience under your belt. Don't be afraid to come in, because everybody in the ARCA series is learning, of course. You sometimes you'll have a bad experience, just as it can be when you're learning, but everybody understands that it is a learning experience. So feel free to jump onto the ANZCAR Facebook page for more details, and of course ANZCAR on iRacing for the league. And yeah, ARCA series on Tuesday nights a very good place to start your learning for oval racing.
Absolutely. So it's to Mark 1 boys, currently 3rd and 4th, Curtis and Schultz. So they're looking to impose themselves on this restart. Hamish Gallagher, as we mentioned, up to 6th. Tristan Cock currently up 20 positions in 8th place. So as the pace car pulls off, Skurlock goes straight away, wasting no time whatsoever this time around. Justin Howe does jump with him, but they have left the A1, my apologies, the Mark 1 boys a little bit behind, albeit they've caught back up while I've been fooling around with my words there. Hamish Gallagher goes with him. He's up into 5th position. So the race is on. In fact, Gallagher there using those fresher tyres to his advantage. He's down underneath Aiden Schultz. He's got a run on him as well, as Howe does close up on the back of Skurlock. So the battle is on for the lead.
Yeah, this is going to be a tasty battle, as we've got about 31 laps remaining of this race. It's all going to be about keeping the cars, managing them to the end of the race right here. You've got Hamish Gallagher, who's going to be hard charging. He's going to have some good speed for these first few laps, but those tyres will start to plateau eventually, and then they'll start to sort of even off in pace. But he should start catching Justin Howe and Skurlock in the next few laps. But Skurlock's going to try and put as much of a gap as he can between that car and himself.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll know what is going to happen here as Hamish Gallagher makes light work of Riley Curtis, moves himself up into 3rd position. with a relatively quick ease. He's now got his eyes set on Justin Howe. He runs a little bit wide there, not quite clipping the wall, but getting a little bit unsettled, and that has further closed up the gap now.
That was a great opportunity for Hamish Gallagher there. Justin Howe just losing that little bit of traction on the edge of that corner, and that's given Gallagher the chance to get a good run. You'll see him getting the run underside now, and he's going to have that traction. He's going to be able to go into this corner much later, brake much later, and take away this position from Howe. You might see Riley Curtis as well trying to sneak through there too.
Didn't quite get the same run, but he's managed to close up a little bit there. Howe struggling with the tyres. It looks like it's he's just trying to keep the battle alive here. But Gallagher with the much fresher product. The other one to keep an eye on as well is Gary Wellman. His tyres some 40 laps younger than Riley Curtis and Justin Howe, so he's one to keep an eye on as well, currently running in 5th position.
That's the ones I was going to talk about, is Gary Wellman and Stephen Williams. They both came in for those fresh tyres a couple of laps ago. They are going to have much better tyres over everybody at the front, including Hamish Gallagher, some 20-odd laps younger tyres. So they should start catching Gallagher as well. So the more Hamish Gallagher gets held up here by Scurlock, the more it's going to help those guys on those really fresh tyres start to catch up to him, and he could start really struggling as they catch up to him. But it's all a thing of if they catch up to him, because they still have a fair few cars to pass right now.
Yeah, not to mention the experience of Michael Scurlock as well. He'll know what he's got to do from here. 25 laps to go. No cautions means he's going to have to manage some fairly old product all the way through to the end of this race. He'll know that Hamish Gallagher is on fresher tyres, so he's trying to run as much as he can. As you can see there, Riley Curtis and Justin Howe just behind Gary Wellman, right up with Curtis now, in fact making his way beyond him up into 4th position, and it won't be long before Justin Howe is going to have to deal with him as well. You can see him there right behind him, ready to take up the challenge. Look at the difference in corner speed there with the new tyres. Just absolutely ate the gap between himself and Justin Howe. Get a ride right through the car there. Benefits of following the sports online. He's battling away, not quite able to get the job done though.
Justin Howe really putting the pressure on Gary Wellman, just blocking as much as he physically can. He's really trying to keep that car behind him, but there's only so much you can do. Wellman now just getting past underneath him, and he's going to start chasing down Hamish Gallagher, who is starting to close in on Scurlock right now. There's only about 0.3 of a second between those two. You can see that gap visibly closing at each lap. Scurlock is really going to have to do something special to keep Gallagher behind him, or get a bit of luck coming his way. But of course, Wellman is going to be catching these two at a vast rate of knots. You can just see how much more speed he's got in that car with those fresh tyres on.
Absolutely. Last time around, 2/10 quicker than Michael Scurlock at the front of the field. So he is on his way. The gap there, 2.3 seconds last time around. They've got plenty of time to move Gallagher and Wellman. So it's going to be on for the next 19 laps as we come around to conclude lap 101.
And of course, the one thing that Wellman has to watch out for is not overcooking those tyres. He's just got to sort of not push it too hard. Same with Gallagher, in fact, is if they overcook the tyres and get them too hot too quickly, they will struggle as the stint goes on. So that's something you've also got to watch out for. You might have those fresh tyres, but they're not going to last forever. The harder you push them, the quicker they fade. But with that advantage that they've got, they should be okay-ish as long as they don't start really pushing, really putting in those lateral loads in the car.
It's a matter of letting the race come to them to some extent, bearing in mind, as we see here, probably a move on for the lead. And in fact, Gallagher gets the job done, so he does take the lead of this race. There's 17 laps to go. There's not too much Skurlock could do about that there. Just the difference in grip between the two cars. And in fact, Gary Wellman well on his way as well, down to 1.5 seconds to the back of Skurlock. So 17 laps to go. He's going to have another challenge to deal with in about 5 or 6 laps time.
Yeah, it was actually a very smart move on Gallagher's side because they were coming up to that lapped car there, and Gallagher pushed Skurlock to the outside and basically boxed him in there, so he couldn't get a run off the corner. Skurlock had a little bit better run off the corner, would have been able to keep side by side with Gallagher down the straight there, but that lapped car meant that Skurlock had to lift off and drop in behind Gallagher, giving Gallagher that position.
Now Gallagher can set about just establishing a comfortable cushion for himself. That's Gary Wellman there, you can see him. He is well and truly on his way. It's almost just dropped back a little bit there. Must just run slightly wide. Had to lift off. Bounce balloon back out to about 2 seconds.
As see Hamish Gallagher going past the stricken car of Chris Purnell there, rather very beaten up car there. We could barely see whose car it was with the amount of damage, unfortunately, but he's still running in the race in 18th position, just gone 1 lap down.
Better to keep going where you can. Every point can count. Of course, Purnell currently sitting 5th in the championship.
And at the moment, with lap times, they're very close to each other, all of them. You got Hamish Gallagher the last time round at 23.1, Michael Skurlock 23.4, and Gary Wellman 23.1 as well. So they're all sitting very close lap times. Skurlock got a little bit off, of course, on those older tyres, but he's doing a great job of keeping pace in that car.
He may well be able to manage that to the end of this race. See Purnell there getting a little bit wide in that very used Toyota Tundra.
He does. As gets caught out a bit there by Aaron Dillon, who sort of came down on him and then went back up a little bit. So just cost him a little bit of time there. That's going to give Gary Wellman the opportunity to start closing in a little bit on Skurlock now.
And he certainly has done that. Took over a second out of him last time around with that. Not interference, that's not the right word for it, but just with that traffic that he had to navigate.
Well, teammates, as
a caution flag. Yeah, this could make things interesting. 8 laps to go. Didn't actually see who that was.
Trying to figure that one out. I think that might have been Ruben Phelps.
Just down on the apron there. It's moving a little slow, but not really see any issue to cause that, but be that as it may.
There was a contact between Ruben Phelps and I think Bill Hickey. So Bill Hickey getting spun right around, going down to the infield, going down to the inner wall, and making heavy contact with that. So big impact there. Just a little bit of contact between Ruben Phelps and Bill Hickey. I couldn't exactly see what happened, but that is the reason for that caution. And now the big question is, are we going to see a spat of cars coming into pit lane to chuck on some new tyres? We've only got 7 laps remaining of this race.
Just saw Chris Purnell there get the lucky dog. He was on his way around to unlap himself. Do any of the front runners, well, in fact, really only one who could, does Michael Skurlock blink and jump into pit lane. He's got a clean truck, fresh rubber, currently sitting in 2nd place.
All depends how many other people are going to come into pit lane. I think that's the question. He doesn't know, so they're all going to stick out there and just soldier on with these trucks right now and see how it goes. This is going to be a big help for Gary Wellman as well as Stephen Williams, so it's going to pay off for those two quite well, as they are the guys. Matty Raymond as well, actually. Sorry, Matty Raymond, Stephen Williams, Carl Hoffman, and Gary Wellman all going to have quite fresh tyres for the end of this race. Skurlock might struggle here on that restart, and could be very tricky.
It's in the chat saying you can't believe Skurlock didn't pit. So we'll see whether it was the right or wrong call.
We have seen some strange things happen at the end of races, and it wouldn't be the first time something a bit weird happened if it all goes well for Skurlock, but I've got to agree there, I can't see this one paying off for him. He is on some very old tyres, around some drivers that are on some very fresh ones, so this could be a disaster for Skurlock. As well as Justin Howe, actually, as those two both on the same strategy, so they're going to really struggle for the end of this race.
And can we see a Bradby moment? Someone around Paul Jackson, who's just pitted, lead driver who has done a pit stop on lap 112, so he is on the freshest rubber. Of course, those in front of him, around about lap 83 was their last stop, so we'll do one more trip around before the pace truck pulls off.
It's going to be interesting to see how this one goes, because I am so surprised we didn't see more people choosing for fresh tyres over track position, but with so few laps to go, of course, it can be tricky. We've seen it's not too easy to pass around here, although those fresh tyres do help an awful lot, gives you the advantage of running a much lower line. It's going to be an interesting restart now. It's going to be an interesting sprint to the end of this race.
And we do know cautions breed cautions, so there's every possibility of another one in the last 4 laps. We know that means a 3-lap run to the end, so plenty of different permutations that can come here as we're under the control of Hamish Gallagher. That car's pulled off and he is off and running. Skurlock, Gary Wellman there, as well as Justin Howe, who's done well. Skurlock here has managed to hold so far. Go with Hamish Gallagher, Wellman, Howe. There is
in the background.
A big incident in the background. Has that brought out a caution? No, it hasn't.
Riley Curtis getting involved in that, as well as Aidan Schultz. So the Mark 1 Esport guys getting involved in that one, but the caution did not come out, so we are green here still. See Stephen Williams jumping down to the inside of Gary Wellman, trying to make that move work. Can't quite get it done at the moment.
And there is pressure at the front here as well. Skurlock, even on those old tyres, is right up behind our race leader. So,
and we're going to get a caution out now as Aidan Schultz gets turned. I think somebody gets turned at the background. I can see Aidan Schultz involved in that one. Looks like possibly Aidan Schultz has lost the car on turn on. So himself and possibly Todd Maxfield, I think.
Oh, he's hit the wall.
The car in synchronized style. They both spun it, and big impact there. So that's going to be a green-white checker for the end of this race.
So he punched the wall very hard indeed, and then ended up coming back out. In fact, it wasn't Dylan, it was Nicholas Walsh, who actually came out and hit the other Mark 1 car. So both Mark 1 boys are no longer going to feature in this race.
Big shame for them. They were having a good run up there. That's devastating there. Riley Curtis as well involved in that in the pit lane, getting repairs done. So that is absolutely devastating for those guys running up in the third and fourth at the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, it just shows you how quickly the fortunes can change. They were indeed 2 cautions ago. Currently, they were running 3rd and 4th, and then now looking like non-finishers.
They are. This is almost like a reprieve for Skurlock and Howe. Matty Raymond's looking good at the moment as well. One of those cars on very fresh tyres. So Matty Raymond and Gary Wellman are going to have some good speed. Pretty much everybody down from there. Look out for Norman Clark as well. Norman Clark is on very fresh tyres down there in 9th position. We've seen Norman Clark just lurking around all night. A very experienced driver in the ANZCAR field. One of those drivers that you can never count out. And he has got some fresh tyres and a relatively cleanish car. A bit of damage, but I think that stems for almost everybody out there tonight. but he could be one to watch out for if he gets a good restart and work his way up into the top 5 of the pack. But you've got to say, at the moment, it's looking good for Hamish Gallagher.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a little bit of a challenge on there from Skurlock, but don't think really anything that Gallagher was too concerned about just before that caution came out.
He did seem to have it fairly under control. It's all going to be about that restart. We saw Gary Wellman bog down a little bit on that restart. That cost him a few positions. And of course, if Gallagher sort of misses a gear or messes up on that restart, that could affect him. But I think that's the only way that he's going to get in trouble there. If he drops the hammer and gets a bit too much wheel spin, something like that, that's the only thing that's going to cause him the trouble where Skurlock could possibly pounce, just because those tyres they must be looking a bit like a dog's dinner at the moment on the bottom of Skurlock's car. Justin Howe doing a good job up there in 3rd position still. He's also on the same strategy as Michael Skurlock, so on those very old tyres, doing a very good job to keep up there too. But I'd say one to watch out for is Matty Raymond, who's gained 23 positions so far this race, just one more than Gary Wellman in 5th, who's on 24 positions.
Yeah, and I was just thinking indeed that might play into Skurlock's hands. In fact, if Howe does hold up with that lack of grip, a couple of the guys trying to come through quickly at the restart, that might allow Skurlock and Gallagher the break to ensure they take home 1st and 2nd here. So again, nothing's changed. This one is far from over. Any one of really our top 10 drivers could take this race out.
That's it. As the pace truck comes in for the final time tonight, at the end of this straight, it's going to be Hamish Gallagher leading away. This is going to be a very juicy restart, isn't it, Stuart?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody's bet at the moment. It's going to be a toss of the coin as to who may take this one out. But Hamish Gallagher will be the one. He's been strong on the restarts all night. Let's see how he goes now. And in fact, right up behind him. And there he goes. Howe just going a little bit early there, as you can see from that restart. And Gallagher's got away. In fact, Howe down underneath Skurlock, so he may pick up 2nd position at the moment. Skurlock trying to use everything he can to keep his truck up in 2nd position. Of course, both drivers on the older tyres doing a great job side by side. At the moment, it is Hamish Gallagher well and truly out in front. Skurlock looks like he might just have his nose in front here. And it is the drivers on the fresher tyres at the moment behind them, not able to do anything at all. Gallagher, Skurlock, Howe, our top 3 as we get around through our final lap here tonight. Who is it going to be? It is going to be Gallagher who is going to take the win here to come around the final corner, but the position's not all done with yet. It's going to be really close for 3rd position between Howe and Raymond. Who's going to bring it across the line?
That was a very, very close finish there at the end. Michael Skurlock almost getting very lucky there to have Justin Howes working as a wingman to keep Matthew Raymond out on the behind him there, who ended up finishing in 4th position. Stephen Williams there in 5th, with Gary Wellman in 6th there. So that was one heck of a close finish.
8 100ths between Howe and Raymond there as they cross the line. So a very, very close finish indeed for the final step of the podium. But it is Gallagher, Skurlock and Howe, as you said, who've taken out the podium tonight. Some very, very well managed old tyres by both Justin Howe and Michael Skurlock to take out those positions. Definitely a notable mention to Matty Raymond, 23 positions. Gary Wellman, the same. And Paul Jackson, 22 positions, finishing inside our top 10, as we will bring up the results for you on screen. Just waiting for that motor to blow up there on that car. Not all that interested in keeping that one alive.
No, you only get to use them once in a race, so you might as well burn them out when you're finished with it. But what a great drive from Skurlock there, showing that you can keep those old tyres running when you need to.
Just a quick rundown of our top 10 in a heavily affected race with 8 caution periods throughout it. It is Gallagher, Skurlock and Howe, your top 3, followed by Raymond, Williams, Wellman, Jackson, Hoffman, Tristan Koch, and we've got Troy Davison rounding out the top 10 tonight for round 6.
Yeah, that was a very tricky race on a lot of those drivers tonight. It's not the easiest of tracks to get around Richmond, and as we saw, a few people getting caught out with some unfortunate incidents there tonight, but some really good recovery drives and, well, driving to keep the car going and keeping those tyres alive as well, just managing to keep those old tyres up in those top three spots for Justin Howe and Michael Skurlock. Brilliant driving from those two.
Absolutely, and certainly, albeit a shorter track, the driving standards again tonight pretty good overall. Not too many silly things happening, but on a closed circuit like this, always going to expect there to be plenty of action, as we spoke about at the top of this race. Once again, just quickly to our broadcast partners at this stage, AJ Insurance Services. We've got Virtual Motorsport Mentor, Ferguson Group Media, and Aftershock PC. Thank you for your support of the channels. We'll just wait for our podium to get into the green room, and then we'll bring them on to have a quick chat with them. In fact, we might bring Hamish and Michael Skurlock in now, so we'll just wait for Justin Howe to turn up as well. Hamish and Michael, welcome to the broadcast booth. What a race from you two. Restarts, very much a strength tonight, Hamish, and certainly helping you out there at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think it was really my strategy that won me the race there, because I don't think I really had anything for Skirley, which is why I tried that different strategy, taking tyres. And fortunately got just enough green flag laps for it to pay off for me. I was a little bit worried there. We're having so many cautions.
Yeah, we
did. Especially that second last one, I thought everyone might pit behind me and I'd be left out in the dry, but luckily it paid off for me.
Interesting that you make the comment, because the viewers as well, very, very surprised to not see a whole heap of people come in to pit lane at that second last caution period. But yeah, very much a good call by you to get out and get that pit stop done, and the fresher tyres paying dividends in the end.
Yeah, like I was talking to Skirley before there, she was pretty rough in the back of the pack, so I was kind of a bit worried to pit and get back there, but yeah, fortunately I didn't get involved in any of their nonsense and got the win, so I'm happy.
Only just. We were on board with you just as you got past the cause of the 7th or 8th caution period, but a great drive from you. Well done.
Thank you.
Mike, the management of tyres there, mate, unbelievable. Lap 43 laps, right? Lap 43 right through to lap 120. How was she towards the end?
Yeah, it was, it was a toss-up, because I knew if I needed to pit somewhere in there if I wanted to win, I knew that unless everyone was going to keep wrecking at the back and Hamish got caught up in that, I knew that if he got to me, I couldn't do anything, because even if your tyres are like 10 laps better here, once they're gone, and it's like you can't do anything about it. So, yeah, good call to him. He's got the balls to go in for that pit, because I was just, it's like a 50-50 whether you're going to survive that. When you go back, there was that many yellows happening already that I just presumed that I'd get caught up in something, if I took the gamble. So, yeah, sometimes you got to gamble if you want to do it, though. And that was the only way I could have beaten him tonight. He was quick early as well, and I got my flow going a bit there towards the end, but still all-round pace for him and Justin was pretty impressive, I thought.
As Justin does join us in the room, and yeah, absolutely, Justin, congratulations on 3rd place as well. Again, time management critical there, and 8 100ths getting you ahead of Maddie Raymond to get 3rd place.
Yeah, she was a hectic race. It's by the end of it, they were getting a bit squishy, that's for sure.
Yeah,
she got nearly hit the wall coming out of turn 4 in that last lap. She was on for sure. Yeah.
Cal?
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking in the rear. I thought, here we go.
She was squirrely. But no, it was an awesome race up the front. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah. Best run I've had in ANZCAR for a while. So.
No, it's definitely well managed. So, yeah, taking out obviously 3rd position as well. So well done, particularly after such a long run. And I think Skirley probably owes you a beer as well for blocking or helping him out just to make sure he gets through to 2nd place there after that restart. Hamish.
Yeah, Oh, I thought I had half a car on him, but no, I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks for not running into me either. I thought,
Nah.
this could go bad.
It could, yeah. No, it was good fun.
No, it was good close
I'd like
running.
to thank ANZCAR too and you guys for the broadcast. Thank you.
Oh, no dramas at all, mate. We do what we do. Hamish, as usual, mate, we'll start with you as the race winner. Anyone that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to the Mad Lads at Mitch, you boys for the broadcast, Dan for putting on the race, and yeah, just glad to finally get a win.
Probably Taylor Swift as well, no doubt.
Oh yeah, just won Grammy album of the year today. You know, it's Legends, Born Legends.
Absolutely, and wouldn't have done it without your support on the truck, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right, mate.
Skirley?
Crank Esports. Only one crank tonight. I would say iRace Designs. And yeah, just green numbers, mate. Chuck those green numbers on, look out. I've got teased for having yellow numbers. They reckon it doesn't match the car or nothing. Put green on.
Goes faster.
Looks all right.
Yeah, it goes faster. No, very good. Yeah, and of course, Justin, yourself.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the Longford Lads Racing team, group of mates who just have a run together, and that's about it. Yeah.
No worries at all. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the good racing up the front of the field. We definitely enjoyed ourselves tonight. Good close racing, albeit we knew there were going to be plenty of cautions, but it probably wasn't as bad as we had potentially expected it was going to be. So a race well run. And of course, next week we are off to Kansas for 100 laps there. What do you fellas think that one's going to bring?
Ooh, outside line. I like that one. Nice, run the wall, mate. It's good.
We did touch on it actually just during the broadcast. I forgot to ask you guys, how have you found it with the changes to the lines? Carl took us through the changes that we implemented in the most recent update. How has that worked in the racing that you've done?
Didn't really have anything tonight. Here. Well, I've heard differently. But Atlanta and the Cup, I imagine, will be a different story this weekend. This Thursday, sorry.
Yeah, it's all news to me, mate. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, obviously, it hasn't made that much of a difference yet.
Drive it around the circle, mate. That's it.
Just turn left, you'll be right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, and that's actually a good segue, as you do mention that the next thing for the ANZCAR broadcast is the SimShed broadcast of the Atlanta run for ANZCAR Cup, 160 laps there. That is on Thursday evening, and that will be a one to tune in and watch. And we do, of course, have the ARCA series tomorrow night, so can't watch that one, but if you do want to participate, still plenty of room on the grid there for people to jump on board and have a bit of fun. For us tomorrow night on our channel, we do have the first round of Season 3 of the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, and that is going to be a very, very full grid. Some 60 runners have qualified for the main series there, so it will be a full race. So do jump on the stream for that 7:45 here on FGM eCast, followed by round 2 on Wednesday night of the Australian Endurance E-Championship GT Sprint Series. So plenty to come on the channel over the balance of the week. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time in the booth. Our top 3, Hamish Gallagher, Michael Skurlock, Justin Howe. As usual, Carl, thank you for joining me on the stream and continuing to educate me on all things truck racing.
As always, you're more than welcome, Stuart, and I will see you again next week. Of course, I'll see you at the Cup Series as well. Yes,
absolutely. So we will be broadcasting that from April, but until then, you can still catch that on the SimSpeed Broadcasting Network in the next couple of weeks, but most definitely looking forward to bringing that to the channel from Thursdays in April. That's about it. I'm going to hop off. It's been a long day, and thank you to everyone who tuned in and made the broadcast what it was tonight. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night, 7:15, 7:45 even, on FGM eCast, your E-place for pace. Thanks very much for tuning in.